Back here in Texas, we are projecting for every state proposition to pass. Those 17 measures covered everything from parental rights to technical school funding and, of course, property taxes. Here to talk more about the results is KXAN's Capitol correspondent, Adam Schwager. Adam, we want to get the title right, so thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So we mentioned several of those constitutional amendments could mean some major changes to property taxes here in the state. So walk us through some of those biggest updates.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest impact from election night that almost every Texan who is a homeowner is going to see. That is increasing that homestead property tax exemption from $100,000 to $140,000 through the approval of Prop 13, which almost got 80% of the Texas vote. Now, what that means is for that first $140,000 of your primary residence's property taxes, that's going to be discounted off, and then any money that would have been lost from your local school district through this measure will be paid out by the state government instead. Additionally, Prop 11 increased that for senior citizens and for the disabled, taking what was a $10,000 add-on to make it $110,000 to now adding $60,000. When you add that with the $140,000, $200,000 off your primary residence. For a lot of senior citizens, that's going to mean that they're not going to have to pay any property taxes at all. Okay,
so we saw widespread, overwhelming support for those two measures, but something else that voters really seemed to favor was Proposition 3. That changes the way that bail works for people accused of some crimes here in Texas. So tell us more about what this means exactly.
You know, in Texas, these constitutional amendments are really the culmination of everything that's happened throughout the legislative session, starting with Governor Greg Abbott back in February, getting on stage, giving his State of the State address, and listing off his 7 emergency items. And if you recall that speech on our Nexstar family of networks, he talked about bail reform as one of the top issues. He spent so much time on it talking about how people were dying because there were violent criminals who were being released on bail. He specifically was calling out Harris County. Now, there was a lot of bail proposals that never made the finish line. A lot of compromises have to be made because they need at least 12 Democrats in the state house to approve and put anything on the ballot because they need 2/3 of each chamber of the legislature. So one of the things that this primarily did is it made it so that there can be, for certain violent or sexual offenses and felony offenses, you can deny bail as long as the judge finds via a preponderance of evidence that they are a flight risk or with clear and convincing evidence that that person is a danger to the community. Now, I spoke to the Bail Project, who is vehemently against just the cash bail system in general earlier today for a story I'm working on tomorrow. They have a surprisingly lukewarm take on this for it being stricter bail, because one of the things that they see in this is codifying due process protections for some of these people. One of the things that is key to this proposal and the proposition that is now going to be enacted into the Constitution is mandatory legal representation for those who are facing that pretrial detention who will be denied bail. So now those people, if the denial of bail is on the table, they have to have a lawyer present. That is a complete change and a real adding to the due process protections, and that's something that even some bail advocates are really happy about.
Okay, that's kind of a different side of this that we haven't really talked about. So thank you for mentioning that too. But while all these propositions look like they have passed at this point, voters in some areas still have unfinished business to take care of coming up soon. So there are runoffs needed to decide some of the other key races all around the state, really. So you're keeping an eye, though, on 2 in particular. What are those?
Yeah, two key runoffs. One for a U.S. representative seat. Sylvester Turner unfortunately passed away way earlier in the year, finally having the special election there. It's a historical Democratic stronghold there in the Houston area. The top 2 candidates are Democrats. You have Christian Menefee, he's a Harris County attorney. You also have Amanda Edwards, who's a Houston City Council member. In fact, the 3rd place in that race who's been knocked out was Jolanda Jones, a state representative from the area, also a Democrat. If you add up all the Republicans in that district, they only got 14.7% of the vote. Once again, strong Democratic stronghold. We didn't expect much different there, but a part of that blue wave we saw nationwide yesterday. Another interesting part of that blue wave we saw last night is in Senate District 9 in the Fort Worth area and the suburbs up there in North Texas. That was to replace Senator Kelly Hancock, who is now the acting comptroller. He won his race back when he ran in 2022 with a margin of 60-40 as the Republican. Yesterday, the top Democrat on the ticket, Taylor Emmett, got 47.6% of the vote, and he's going to be going up against Lee Wambsgans, who took home 36% of the vote. Another thing that's very interesting is how much money was thrown in there. There was less than $1 million spent from Emmett. Wambsgans spent $1.4 million, according to the Texas Tribune. Her candidate, the front candidate who finished in third, the Republican who is also contending, John Huffman, was spent $2.7 million in that race. A lot of money being spent up there for not a lot of results, and now a runoff coming on December 13th, where we'll see if there is a shot for Emmett to pick up those extra 3 points and possibly flip a seat that has been traditionally thought to be a red stronghold to a blue seat.
Two incredible runoffs to watch very closely. I know you'll be doing that, but Adam, thanks again for this update, and I know it was a late night for you, and we appreciate you being on our show to talk about this.
Well, thank you for having me.